The Carolina dream usually sounds perfect. Sweet tea on the porch, mild winters, golf almost all year. A slower pace of life that feels earned after decades of work. But that picture doesn't tell the whole story. Because for a growing number of retirees, moving to North or South Carolina has turned into a financial wake-up call they never saw coming. And by the time they realize it, the boxes are already unpacked. On the surface, it looks affordable. Mountain views, coastal breezes, friendly neighborhoods. But in certain parts of the Carolinas, the real costs are hiding in plain sight. Property taxes that climb faster than expected. Special assessments for roads, drainage, and utilities. Home insurance premiums that double almost overnight. And in some areas, one major storm can make coverage either painfully expensive or impossible to get at all. Many of these towns were once budget-friendly. Today they're being reshaped by rapid growth, outside money, and rising demand. That means retirees on fixed incomes are suddenly competing in markets that no longer work in their favor. Add in higher crime in fast-growing neighborhoods, increased HOA fees, and aging infrastructure that residents are asked to help fund, and that low cost of living promise starts to fall apart. In this video, we're taking a clear, honest look at 10 specific cities across North and South Carolina where retirement savings are under real pressure. We'll show you which mountain town has quietly priced out longtime residents, and which coastal community is just one bad hurricane season away from becoming financially unlivable. This isn't about fear. It's about facts, the kind that brochures don't mention. And before we start this road trip of financial reality, if you value straightforward analysis that helps protect your money, tap the like button. Subscribe for more relocation insights like this, and drop a comment telling us which state you think has become more expensive than people realize. Alright, seatbelt on. Our first stop is a place many retirees fall in love with, right before the bills start rolling in. Number 10 on our list is Greenville, South Carolina. You've probably heard the buzz. Greenville is often marketed as the fresh alternative for retirees leaving Florida. Cooler weather, charming downtown streets, and a strong sense of community. But that popularity comes with a price, and it's rising fast. As you enter downtown Greenville, one thing stands out immediately: non-stop construction. Those cranes aren't just signs of growth, they're a warning signal. Rapid gentrification has pushed home prices far beyond what many retirees originally planned for. Home values here have climbed sharply in just a few years. What once felt affordable now puts serious pressure on anyone living on a fixed income. Compared to major coastal cities, it may still look reasonable, but for the local economy, this shift has been dramatic. One of the biggest hidden costs in Greenville is infrastructure strain. The city has grown faster than its roads were ever designed to handle. Traffic congestion in the upstate region is among the worst in South Carolina, and that doesn't just cost you time, it quietly drains your wallet through higher fuel use, increased vehicle maintenance, and elevated insurance risk. And insurance is another issue altogether. South Carolina already ranks above the national average for auto insurance costs. In a fast-growing city like Greenville, where congestion and accidents are more common, monthly premiums can climb quickly, especially for retirees on limited budgets. Housing isn't the only area where Greenville runs hot. Utility costs and overall living expenses here are higher than the state average. On top of that, sales taxes add up fast. Between state and local rates, everyday purchases take a bigger bite than many newcomers expect. There's also a widening economic gap inside the city. Certain neighborhoods struggle with higher poverty levels, and that divide can contribute to increased property crime in surrounding areas, which again feeds into higher insurance and security costs. Greenville isn't a bad city. In fact, it used to be an incredible value. But today, it's a clear example of a place where timing matters. 10 years ago, it was a hidden gem. Now, many retirees are paying premium prices for a lifestyle that's becoming more crowded, more competitive, and far more expensive than advertised. And that's why Greenville earns the number 10 spot on our list. Let's move on to the next city, where the surprises don't stop there. Number 9 is Chapel Hill, North Carolina. As we continue north into the Tar Heel State, Chapel Hill often shows up on best places to live lists, thanks to its academic reputation, walkable streets, and cultural amenities. But for retirees, the financial reality can be shocking. This is a classic college town where demand never cools off, and that pressure shows up first in the housing market. Home prices here are among the highest in North Carolina, often landing far above what most retirees expect when they hear Southern Town. And the purchase price is just the beginning. Chapel Hill sits in Orange County, an area known for significantly higher property taxes than neighboring counties. For someone living on a fixed income, annual tax bills running into the thousands can quickly strain even a carefully planned retirement budget. The overall cost of living here also runs well above average. Housing and healthcare are the biggest drivers, and while the quality of medical care is excellent, out-of-pocket expenses often catch newcomers off guard, especially those transitioning off employer-sponsored insurance. Sales taxes add another layer of pressure. Everyday purchases cost more than many retirees anticipate, and those extra percentages quietly chip away at monthly cash flow. There's also a hidden cost that rarely makes it into relocation guides: regulation. Chapel Hill's strict zoning and development rules help preserve its polished appearance, but they also make home repairs, upgrades and renovations far more expensive and time-consuming than in nearby towns. On top of that, this is a highly educated, high-income community. That drives up prices across the board, from services to housing, and it leaves retirees competing in a market designed around professional salaries, not retirement checks. Chapel Hill is beautiful. It's intellectually vibrant. And for the right buyer, it can be a fantastic place to live. But unless you're arriving with a strong pension or substantial savings, this town can quietly turn into a financial trap, wrapped in charm and tree-lined streets. That's why Chapel Hill earns the number 9 spot on our list. Let's keep moving, because the next city brings a very different kind of financial surprise. Number 8 is Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. We're heading back to the coast now, just across the bridge from Charleston, to a place whose name sounds welcoming, but for retirees the costs can be anything but. Mount Pleasant has become one of the most desirable addresses in South Carolina, and that popularity has pushed prices into a completely different league. This is no longer a coastal bargain. It's an exclusive market where entry alone requires serious money. Home prices here routinely sit in the high 6 figures, and in many neighborhoods they push well into 7. For retirees, that kind of buy-in can instantly consume a large portion of a lifetime of savings. But the real surprise comes after you buy. Nearly every newer community in Mount Pleasant is controlled by a homeowners association. HOA fees are not optional, and they can add hundreds of dollars a month to your expenses. On top of that, special assessments are common, and rules are often strictly enforced. In many cases, it feels less like ownership and more like paying a second monthly bill just to live where you already bought. Then there's insurance, a major pressure point on the coast. Flood insurance is often required, especially in higher-risk zones, and recent changes to flood mapping have pushed premiums sharply higher. When you combine flood coverage with wind and storm insurance, annual insurance costs alone can reach levels that shock new residents. Traffic is another quiet drain on your wallet. Highway congestion has worsened over the years, turning short drives into long commutes. More time on the road means higher fuel costs, more vehicle wear and added stress, none of which are usually mentioned in relocation brochures. The overall cost of living here runs far above average. Groceries, services, and everyday expenses all come with a premium price tag, reflecting the area's upscale positioning. Mount Pleasant is clean, safe, and undeniably beautiful. It attracts wealth and it's designed to serve it. But that's exactly the issue. This is a pay-to-play city. And for retirees who need their savings to last decades, not just years, Mount Pleasant can quietly become a financial pressure cooker. That's why it earns the number 8 spot on our list. Next up, we head to another destination that looks like paradise, until the long-term costs come into focus. Number 7 is Asheville, North Carolina. Head west into the mountains and you'll reach a city that's constantly praised as a retirement paradise, artsy, scenic, and surrounded by nature. But financially, Asheville can be one of the most misleading places in the Carolinas. The biggest issue here is housing, and it starts with scarcity. Short-term rentals have taken a huge chunk of the long-term housing supply off the market. That squeeze has pushed home prices far beyond what many retirees expect when they hear mountain town. Today, prices sit at levels that don't match the local economy at all. Wages in this region have historically been modest, yet housing costs reflect luxury market demand. That disconnect creates ongoing pressure on anyone trying to live on a fixed income. Then there's what many people call the mountain premium. Building, repairing, or even maintaining a home on steep terrain costs more than it does on flat land. Specialized labor, drainage issues, and slope stabilization all add up quickly, turning routine maintenance into a serious expense. The overall cost of living here runs higher than both the state and national averages. Everyday expenses, from utilities to services, simply cost more in Asheville than most of North Carolina. Healthcare is another area where expectations don't always match reality. While the city does have a major hospital system, residents frequently report long wait times and limited access to certain specialists. That often means driving to larger cities for care, adding travel costs, time, and stress. Taxes add another layer. North Carolina's flat income tax applies here, and local sales taxes push everyday purchases higher than many retirees plan for. And then there's the environment. Asheville's mountain geography tends to trap pollen and air pollutants. For people with asthma or allergies, this can mean higher medical expenses and ongoing treatment costs that weren't part of the original retirement plan. Crime is also a surprise for many newcomers. Property crime rates here are noticeably higher than what people expect from a small mountain city, which often leads residents to invest in additional security measures. Asheville is still beautiful. The mountains are real. The culture is real. But the value proposition isn't what it used to be. In many ways, Asheville is living off a reputation it earned years ago. Today, it's a crowded, tourist-driven city with prices that make it extremely hard to live comfortably on a retirement budget. That's why Asheville lands at number 7. Let's keep going, because the next city comes with a very different kind of financial risk. Number 6 is Wilmington, North Carolina. We're back on the North Carolina coast now, in a historic port city known for riverwalk views, nearby beaches and coastal charm. But Wilmington also delivers one of the most expensive surprises retirees face on the coast: insurance. If you retire here, you're stepping directly into hurricane territory. Homeowners insurance doesn't work the same way it does inland. Along the coast, many policies include separate wind and storm deductibles that can dramatically change your financial risk. Instead of a simple flat deductible, these are often calculated as a percentage of your home's insured value. That means after a major storm, you could be responsible for tens of thousands of dollars out of pocket before insurance coverage even begins. Water quality is another quiet expense many retirees don't expect. Wilmington has dealt with long-running concerns related to chemical contamination in its water supply. While improvements are underway, many residents choose to install whole home filtration systems or rely on bottled water services, adding a recurring monthly cost that wasn't part of the original retirement budget. Then there's the coastal environment itself. Salt air and constant humidity take a toll on homes and vehicles. Rust, corrosion, HVAC wear, and exterior damage happen faster here than in inland cities. Over time, maintenance and replacement costs add up in ways that catch newcomers off guard. Home prices in Wilmington have also climbed steadily. As prices rise, many retirees find themselves pushed farther from the city center, where access to healthcare, shopping, and services becomes more limited, increasing transportation costs and dependence on driving. Crime is another factor people don't always associate with a beach town. Wilmington's crime rates are higher than many expect, and that can influence both home and auto insurance premiums over time. On paper, Wilmington may still appear slightly cheaper than the national average. But that number doesn't fully capture the coastal risks, insurance exposure, and environmental wear that come with living here. Wilmington is charming, historic, and undeniably scenic. But for retirees, the unpredictability of insurance costs and the long-term maintenance demands make it a financial roll of the dice, and one that doesn't always pay off. That's why Wilmington comes in at number 6. Let's head to our next stop, where the costs are hidden in a very different way. Number 5 is Charlotte, North Carolina. As you hit the crowded interstates around the Queen City, it becomes clear fast. This is a major metro with big city energy and big city costs. And for retirees, those costs are rising faster than many retirement plans can handle. One of the most overlooked expenses in Charlotte is transportation. This is a spread-out city, and daily life here revolves around driving. Walkability is limited, and public transit doesn't cover most retirement-friendly neighborhoods. That means owning a car isn't optional, it's mandatory. Longer commute times, constant road construction, and growing congestion quietly drive up fuel costs, maintenance, and insurance. Every errand comes with a price tag. Housing is another pressure point. Charlotte has attracted waves of corporate and financial sector workers, and that demand has pushed home prices sharply higher. Even when other markets cool, prices here tend to stay elevated. But the real shock often comes later. Property taxes in Mecklenburg County are tied to periodic revaluations, and when those happen, assessed values can jump dramatically. For retirees, that can translate into sudden and permanent increases in annual tax bills, with little warning and no easy way to offset the cost on a fixed income. Many of the most popular suburban communities also come with mandatory homeowners associations. Monthly fees add up quickly, and you may end up paying for amenities you rarely use, if at all. Utility costs are another ongoing concern. Hot, humid summers mean heavy air conditioning use, and energy rates have been trending upward. Cooling a larger home in this climate can strain a monthly budget faster than expected. Crime is uneven across the city, but overall safety rankings keep insurance costs higher than many retirees anticipate, especially for auto coverage in a driving-dependent city. Charlotte is dynamic. It's growing. And it offers tremendous opportunity for working professionals building wealth. But for retirees trying to make their savings last, this city can feel like it's always moving just a little faster than your budget can keep up with. That's why Charlotte earns the number 5 spot on our list. Up next, we head to a place that looks calm on the surface, but hides some very expensive realities underneath. Number 4 is Charleston, South Carolina. As you head into the Lowcountry, you arrive in one of America's most admired cities, famous for its history, architecture, and southern charm. But for retirees, Charleston often operates like a financial drain disguised as a dream destination. At a glance, the cost of living already runs higher than average. Housing is the biggest factor, with home prices well above what most people expect when they picture a southern retirement. For many retirees, the purchase alone consumes far more capital than planned. But the real costs begin after you move in. Owning a home in Charleston means battling the environment year-round. High humidity creates constant risks from mold, rot, and termites. Ongoing pest protection, moisture control, and structural maintenance aren't optional here. They're routine expenses. Flooding is another major issue. Even without storms, certain parts of the city flood regularly. That reality drives up insurance premiums and increases the risk of vehicle damage and property repairs that rarely show up in relocation calculators. Insurance costs in general can be unpredictable, especially as flood maps and risk models continue to change. What looks manageable one year can become significantly more expensive the next. Traffic is another hidden cost. Rivers, bridges, and limited routes create frequent congestion, increasing fuel use and vehicle wear, especially frustrating for retirees who value convenience and accessibility. Then there's tourism inflation. Charleston isn't priced for locals, it's priced for visitors. Dining, services, and everyday outings often reflect tourist budgets, not retirement incomes. Even simple errands can feel more expensive than expected. Sales taxes are also on the high side, quietly increasing the cost of daily life. Healthcare access adds another layer of concern. With public health resources stretched thin, many residents turn to private or concierge options to get timely care, adding yet another expense retirees didn't plan for. Charleston is beautiful. It's rich in culture and history. But retiring here means committing to constant spending just to maintain your home against water, insects, and humidity, all while paying premium prices for everyday life. It's an incredible place to visit, but as a long-term retirement destination, Charleston can quickly turn into a financial sinkhole. That's why it earns the number 4 spot on our list. Next, we move on to a place where the costs don't come from the weather, but from the market itself. Number 3 is Columbia, South Carolina. We're heading inland now to the state capital, a city known for many things but most famously for its heat, and that heat comes with a price. In Columbia, air conditioning isn't seasonal, it's a way of life. For much of the year, cooling your home is non-negotiable. Utility bills here can climb quickly, turning summer electricity costs into one of the largest monthly expenses retirees face. But temperature is only the first drain on your budget. Richland County carries one of the heavier local tax burdens in South Carolina. Property tax rates here are higher than in many surrounding counties, and that translates into a larger annual bill, even if your home price looks affordable at first glance. Crime is another concern that often surprises newcomers. Certain areas struggle with elevated levels of violent crime, which affects not only personal peace of mind but also insurance premiums and security costs. Infrastructure adds another quiet expense. Many roads in and around the city are in rough condition, increasing wear on vehicles. Over time, that means more frequent repairs, higher maintenance bills, and additional transportation costs. Economic pressure is also visible across the city. A significant portion of the population lives below the poverty line, placing extra strain on local services. That pressure often shows up as rising fees for utilities, waste collection, and other basics retirees depend on. Sales taxes add to the daily cost of living, quietly increasing the price of everything from groceries to household goods. Columbia can look appealing on paper. Home prices are lower than along the coast, and the city offers the conveniences of a capital region. But when you factor in relentless heat, higher taxes, safety concerns, and rising everyday expenses, the value equation changes fast. For retirees seeking comfort, stability, and predictable costs, Columbia often delivers the opposite. That's why it takes the number 3 spot on our list. Up next, we move to a place that appears affordable, until the long-term math tells a very different story. Number 2 is Fayetteville, North Carolina. As we cross back into North Carolina, we arrive in Fayetteville, a city closely tied to Fort Liberty, formerly known as Fort Bragg. The military presence here is strong and the sense of patriotism is real. But for civilian retirees, the financial and social realities can be tough. One of the first challenges is the transient nature of the population. With constant rotations of military personnel, many neighborhoods lack long-term stability. For retirees hoping to build lasting community connections, that revolving door dynamic can feel isolating. The biggest red flag, though, is crime. Fayetteville consistently ranks among the higher crime cities in the country, particularly when it comes to property-related offenses. That risk shows up directly in your finances. Home insurance and auto insurance premiums are noticeably higher here than in nearby, quieter towns, simply because the likelihood of theft and vandalism is greater. Property value growth is another concern. In areas with elevated crime, home appreciation often struggles to keep pace with inflation. While prices can rise during strong periods tied to the military economy, they tend to be volatile. That means your home may not function as the stable long-term investment many retirees rely on. Economic strain is visible across the city. Poverty levels are higher than average, which puts pressure on local services and limits access to upscale amenities retirees often look for, such as specialty healthcare providers and higher-end shopping. Healthcare itself can also be frustrating. Because the local economy and infrastructure are heavily centered around the military base, many medical resources are geared toward active duty personnel. Civilian retirees may find longer wait times or fewer options for age-focused care. Walkability is another hidden cost. This is a car-dependent city. Everyday tasks, groceries, medical appointments, dining, almost always require driving. Over time, fuel, maintenance, and insurance costs quietly add up. Environmental risk plays a role as well. Portions of the area are vulnerable to flooding during hurricane season, bringing insurance concerns right back into the picture. Fayetteville serves an important purpose, and for families connected to the military, it can make sense. But for retirees without those ties, the combination of crime risk, limited appreciation potential, and ongoing living costs makes it a risky place to anchor your retirement savings. That's why Fayetteville lands at number 2 on our list. Now, let's move on to the number 1 city, the place that surprises the most people of all. Number 1 is Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. This is our final stop, and the worst place to retire in the Carolinas when hidden costs are taken seriously. Myrtle Beach is aggressively marketed as an affordable golf and beach paradise. Cheap condos, endless sunshine, easy living. But for full-time retirees, this city often turns into a financial trap. The biggest shock comes from homeowners insurance. Because Myrtle Beach sits directly on the Atlantic and has a long history of storm damage, insurance costs here are brutal. Many private insurers no longer write new policies in the area at all. That leaves homeowners pushed into state-backed wind and storm coverage, which usually means higher premiums and less protection. For many retirees, the first insurance renewal is the moment the dream starts to collapse. Crime is another issue that rarely makes it into the brochures. Tourist-heavy areas experience elevated rates of theft and property crime, and Myrtle Beach is no exception. The risk is real, and it shows up in higher home insurance, higher auto insurance, and added spending on security measures. Then there's what locals quietly call the tourist tax. Restaurants, services, and even basic conveniences are priced for visitors who are on vacation, not for retirees living on a fixed monthly budget. Everyday life costs more here than most people expect. Traffic adds another layer of frustration and expense. Major routes are constantly congested, especially during peak seasons, burning fuel and patience at the same time. HOA fees are also a major landmine. Many condos and communities were built decades ago during rapid development booms. Aging infrastructure, underfunded reserves, and deferred maintenance often lead to massive special assessments. Retirees can be hit with 5-figure repair bills almost overnight for roofs, elevators, or structural upgrades. Economic strain is visible just blocks away from the resorts. Poverty levels are high, creating a sharp contrast between the tourist economy and the reality of year-round residents. Healthcare access can also be challenging. During peak tourist seasons, medical systems are stretched thin, and routine appointments can involve long waits, something retirees don't always have the flexibility to deal with. Myrtle Beach sells a fantasy. But that fantasy often dissolves the moment you open your first insurance statement and realize that what looked like a cheap coastal retirement is actually a long-term money pit. This road trip across the Carolinas proves one important lesson. A low sticker price doesn't mean low cost of living. Protecting your retirement means looking past the postcard and digging into taxes, insurance, crime, and long-term maintenance. If this video helped open your eyes, hit the like button to support the research. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next deep dive, and drop a comment below telling us which city you think is the biggest retirement trap. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.